I'd like to call to order the October 27th, 2016 Springboro Board of Education meeting. Roll call.
Anderson?
Yeah.
Babb?
Yes.
Alonde? Lunt? Stuckey?
Yes.
All right.
Pledge of allegiance. Will everybody rise, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
1.2, adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion? So moved. Second? Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Babb?
Yes.
Lunt?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes. 1.3, approval of October 11, 2016 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to accept?
Second.
Call, please.
Anderson?
Yes.
Babb?
Yes.
Lunt?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes. 2.1, Mr. Schreier.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'm very thrilled tonight to be able to bring two students from our junior high, and they have a wonderful presentation this evening, and with them is our most excellent assistant principal, Brooke Coulter, and I'm going to turn the program over to you.
Ladies?
First of all, thank you for having us. I'm super excited to share with you the exciting things that we're doing in junior high. With me tonight is Faith Hampton and Belle DeRosa. Faith and Belle are two of our several leaders of our Friends of Rachel club that we have. And our fourth club has been working diligently since our last large group meeting with the presentation that came in to make sure that we are continuing those beliefs and values that were introduced to us in the Friends of Rachel program last year. Once we decided our focus for the start of the year, they have created posters to let the students know what was coming up. Then they created a presentation through Google Slides, which was amazing to watch the collaboration happen between all of them. Wonderful to experience that. So they created the presentation, and then about 2 weeks ago, they presented to their peers, which is not an easy thing to do. So about 30 kids per homeroom, and they presented this to their peers. So I'm going to turn it over to Belle and Faith so they can present to you about riot calls.
So first we showed them a video that showed random acts of So then we went over Rachel's 5 challenges, which are eliminate prejudice by looking for the best in others, dreaming big, choosing positive influences, speaking with kindness, and serving achieving action.
And then we explained this is what a pride ball is. And then we started them, they went around last year at the junior high, and we wanted to bring them back again and introduce them to the 7th graders.
So then we showed them real pride paws, which have the white side and the yellow side. And they gave, if they were one someone, they gave this to the person, and the person turned this into the pride box, which would then become up on the pride board, and then they kept the yellow box.
We went over what pride stands for, which is positive, respectful, inspiring, dynamic, and encouraging.
And then we gave students examples, and they then wrote their own example pride paws.
So we passed them out, and each of them, it wasn't a real pride call, it was just like a copy thing, and that had 4 of them on it, and they were supposed to write 2 of them to students, 1 to a teacher, and 1 to another staff member, like a bus driver or janitor or something, just to get practice on writing them.
And then we just went over this and made sure that they all understood pride paws and would be ready for
Guys, you did a great job. Any questions from the board?
What do you do with the pride paw? Like, are they hung places?
Yeah, there's a bulletin board like in the comments. And then when you turn them in, they're drawn for pencils.
And do you see, are kids starting to use them?
Yeah.
Are they? I think it's a great idea that you had them practice ahead of time to kind of give them an idea of the type of things you might do. Because that's kind of intimidating at first, not sure what to include. So that was a great idea to get them started on it. Nice job.
Any other questions? Guys, I'm proud of you. You know, first of all, this program, an amazing program where you're going to show kindness throughout the school. And I think that's awesome. I'm also proud of you because you 2 came here tonight and spoke in front of a bunch of strangers, people that are a whole lot older than you, right? And you're on TV, and that's pretty cool. So what we have, and I think you may know about this, you may not, but we have 2 books tonight. Inside each book is your name. This one has Faith's name, and then this book has Belle's name. Now, what I'm going to have you do is sign the inside of this label. And here's why. This book is Lincoln's Grave Robbers. It's a book that the librarian here said, and this one here is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. These are 2 books that we wanted for the library. But Belle, whenever someone checks out this book, they're going to see this label. That this book was donated to the junior high library because you spoke at this board meeting tonight. So I'm not giving you this book, but what you do is you sign it, and whenever someone checks it out, they sign it out, and they see that you made this happen. Is that cool? All right, so what I want you to do, Belle, is we're going to have you sign right here, and then Faith, I'm going to have you sign there, and then when that's done, someone you know is going to take your picture with the board, okay? So Mrs. Gross, if you want to line them up.
Yes, sir.
They made it perfect.
All right. All right, Lynn, do the picture.
You guys are.
Mom has to take a picture too. Awesome.
I'd love to take
I
it.
know. That's awesome.
How about a round of applause, please? All right, Mr. President, that is our student success in action.
2.2, anybody from the Springboro Education Association report? 2.3, Springboro classified employees. Public participation prearranged. Mrs. Kovitz, do you?
No podium.
Name and address, please.
Laura Kovitz at 25 McLean Drive in Springboro. And I don't have a lot of prearranged comments today. As the board knows, on Tuesday, I received an email from Superintendent Schroyer letting me know that the district has decided to restore the GIS services for the 4th grade English Language Arts classroom and 5th grade math classroom that we discussed at the last board meeting. But I received a number of, I guess, public inquiries and just emails from friends who had viewed the last presentation, so I wanted to kind of publicly let people know that tonight at this presentation, and thank you. And I'm glad that the district is moving forward with this. I understand there is a process to this now, so I believe a posting is either coming soon. I talked to Mr. Wiggins yesterday, and it's still in process. But we will be looking forward to when those personnel, I guess, are both in place and the services are kind of back to what we were hoping. So thank you very much, and thank you for letting me share that with the general public.
Thank you. 2.5, any other public participation on an agenda item? Yes.
Stephanie Bendeman, 35 Frycourt. I feel a little bit like history is repeating itself in Springboro. Last meeting, we were given a brutal 5-year forecast. We're still waiting for that money that we were supposed to get from that pipeline. College Credit Plus is taking a huge amount out of our budget, and we're losing over $560,000 to underperforming charter schools. Why do I bring that up? Because last time I stood up and said I was shocked about a $20,000 raise. But I didn't really know about it, so I thought, I'm going to go home and I'm going to do some research. This is what I found. The $20,000 raise is going to bring the new job of assistant athletic director to a $50,000 a year job. And this is nothing against the new assistant athletic director. It is not anything personally against her or anybody in the athletic department. I am just concerned as a taxpayer, a parent, and one of your constituents. The rationale of using gate receipts only makes sense to me only if the athletic department were self-sufficient. It isn't. The general fund subsidizes the athletic department to a tune of $350,000 a year. That means that $20,000 that they say, oh, we'll just get out of gate receipts or we'll be cut somewhere, that could come back to the general fund. Because the job here is not to have the greatest sports teams ever, but it's to help our kids academically. I've got a kid that also does sports, and I'm glad it's here for him. But my #1 priority as a parent, as a taxpayer, as a constituent, is that my kids have the best academic environment they can have. And it scares me because Mrs. Kovitz came and talked last week or 2 weeks ago about this. Nobody knew. If she had not raised it, we would have had a big hole over in 5 Points and in Dennis for our gifted kids, which I think last time we checked was 40% of the district. I don't think 40% of the district does athletics. So what are the voters going to think if this is going to be a wise use of all of our resources, our very, very scarce resources? When we're the community asking for support for a needed levy, do you think this $20,000 raise is going to be brought up? I do. I've been on 2 or 3 of the levy committees, and people in this town and in this township take any opportunity they can to find something to say no about why they're not going to support a levy. Since this is an administrative position, you've now increased your overhead. You have $50,000, $20,000 that wasn't in the budget originally, going to overhead, going to somebody that's not in a classroom, but to somebody that's doing overhead. So, I went on the ODE website because I wanted to find out, what do we pay our teachers? I used to know that 3 or 4 years ago when it was really, really important to me. But I had kind of let things drift and I thought things were going great, so I didn't think I had to do that kind of stuff. But I found out that over 100 or 1/3 of our classroom, people with bachelor's and a lot of them with master's degrees make less than $50,000 annually. These are teachers my kids have. These are great teachers. I knew the names. These are teachers that I've sent boards things about how great their classroom was, that have influenced my children wonderfully. And they're getting paid less than an assistant athletic director? What's our job here in this district? 2 years ago, we lost one of our EPIC teacher winners to Mason after they offered her $10,000 more a year. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you how many more we lost in the summer, but I know a lot of them got a $10,000 raise when they left. One of our great administrators moved down to Mason, and I've heard she's making a lot more money. So nobody in this district is getting paid what they are worth. No one. But it's important to pay the assistant athletic director what everybody else is getting paid. Our teachers aren't getting paid what they're worth. Our teachers aren't getting paid what everybody else pays them. They can't be, when all they have to do is take a new job and get $10,000 more. Our bus drivers get trained here in Springboro. I've heard they get really good training, thank goodness, because I've got 2 kids that ride buses. And then you know what they do? They go to different districts and they get better training. They go to different districts and they get more money. I'm really, really concerned. What does a huge race like this say to our teachers and our staff? The people that are in the trenches with my kids every day. What does it say to our community? What does it say to your constituents? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Committee reports.
One thing I said, we kind of went over the work session, because we don't have work session night, right? One thing I do want to say, I don't have any committee reports, but based upon the discussion we had with Mrs. Bad and Mr. Galaje yesterday, one of the things that we're going to start bringing to every board meeting is going to be a small part of our report card. There's a whole lot, 6 major areas, whether it's achievement, gap closing, prepare for success. Each one of those has individual things in it. So whether it's the junior high, whether it's the high school, whether it's Dennis, we're going to have leaders in those buildings come in and give us some reports each month on where we're at in increasing performance in one of those or even more of those areas within the building. I appreciate the conversation yesterday. I think this will be a nice addition to our board meetings from here on out. Otherwise, we have no work session or committee reports tonight.
Can I make a comment on the committee that I attended today?
Sure.
I attended the curriculum committee today, and it was exciting to me to hear they wanted to know from the schools what they were looking for professional development, what would help them in their individual buildings. And it was really cool to hear a couple of the buildings talking about how they took the information from the report cards, and they were not just looking at these were areas, general areas that they needed growth, but they were digging down deep and saying, okay, in biology, these were the specific areas that this teacher was strong in this area. So if you were strong in this area, what did you do to teach cells? And then the other teachers were learning from the person that did well in cells. And then they were saying, you did well with, well, they said heredity is one that we all struggle with. So that might be something that we need to get some more resources or do professional development. That is using data to drive your professional development. That's the kind of stuff that is exciting to me, because we're really looking and not just providing a general professional development or curriculum, just picking something out of the air, but really looking and saying, this is what we need help in. So it was cool. 2 different buildings were talking about how they were using that. I think social studies at SI was also talking, I guess, their scores and And Mrs. Stacy said, I will take no credit for that because that wasn't my building last year, but they scored very, very high. And it turns out their team works together very, very collaboratively and looks at what are their strength areas, and they tap into, you did well in this area, so let us learn from you. So that was just exciting to me. They're just learning from each other and tearing our data apart. So it was a really cool meeting just to sit back and kind of watch the professionals brainstorming together, and then to know that our district wants to hear from the teachers, what do you need for professional development, and not just coming in saying, we at this level are going to provide this, even though you might not really, that might not be the professional development you need. So it was a really cool meeting.
3.3, any discussion of any other business? Okay, before we go on to the treasurer's report, we'll take a break. Okay, for a moment. Yep.
We have an approval to accept the donation of $250 gift card from Linda Hamilton to purchase recess items for Dennis Elementary. Another donation for $500 from Mr. and Mrs. Offenberger for the Anonymous Panther. An approval of a donation of $1,800 from the Dayton Foundation Depository from donor Mark Belt in memory of Andy Belt to be used for the Springboro varsity hockey team. And then the last donation is a donation of $1,500 from McDonald's, $1,538 from the SIPTO, and $1,800 from Side Effects for 2 Springboro Intermediate basketball games. And then the last item is approval of the 5-year forecasting assumptions that I presented during work session of the last board.
Is there any discussion on that? All right, do I have a motion to accept items 4.1 through 4.5?
So second.
Roll call?
Anderson?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes.
Lunt?
Yes.
Bath?
Yes.
Superintendent's report. Mr. Schreier.
Thank you, Mr. President. 5.1 are board policy revisions. This is the first reading. We will not need action tonight. These were brought to our policy committee. Bylaw 0110, all those are just 2 quick corrections. These are corrections, for example, 0112 talks about the boundaries. It talks about that we provide a program of education in grades K through 12. Well, for the last 3 years, we've been providing education pre-K through 12. And so this is just something that's been missed, so we're just crossing off K and putting P. And then for some reason, it had our Board of Education office at 270 West Central Avenue. How long has that been, John?
2003.
Okay, so 13 years had that sitting in there, so.
Still getting mail and stuff.
That's right, we do.
So those are just revisions, just cleaning up. The second one is policy 3223. This is a brand new policy about our standard-based school counselor evaluation. State of Ohio, through the evaluation system, whether it's the Ohio Teacher Education System or evaluation system, we've been working with teachers for a couple of years on the new evaluation system. Now the counselors have their own evaluation system, and this is a policy as brought to us by Neola as far as putting that in for how we're going to evaluate counselors. Again, Mr. President, that's a first read, no action needed tonight. 5.2 is the approval of the administrative contract for Jennifer Runshie that we talked about once or twice.
All right. I have a motion to 5.2. Do you have a motion to accept the recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes.
Lunt?
Yes.
Bath?
No.
Executive Director report. Mr. Brunel.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for your consideration today, we've got our standard personnel items, which consists of just want to get this up here. Just one modification of a student or an employee. He's picking up some additional duties. He's bringing our deposits to the bank, which is saving us a tremendous amount of money and effort, and the treasurer's office has been working on that all year long. We've got some approval of a stipend that is an annual stipend that we've been giving. And then we've got a couple resignations of supplementals, some employment of some supplemental personnel, the majority of which are athletics. One Camp Kern volunteer that was left off the last thing. It was a last minute ad for 5 points, some classified substitutes, a Camp Kern parent volunteer for Dennis, that was a late ad, and then we've got some updates of some leaves of absences. 6.2, we have two additional individuals that have a transportation in lieu of that we just got. So that's just an additional improvement from what you all have done a couple other times before this year. 6.3 is the approval of the out-of-state trip for the Springboro Varsity Competition Cheer Group. This is their annual, it's annual only because they're so good. They qualify for the national competition down in Walt Disney World. So they do a bunch of fundraisers to be able to fly down there with coaches and parents and transportation while they're down there. Cost is approximately $800 per cheerleader, which includes all of that so that they get down there. And they do an outstanding job and an excellent job every year. So it's nice to be able to see them go every year. And that's all I have for you today.
Any discussion? Is there a motion to 6.1 to 6.3? That motion. Second. Any discussion before we go? Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Yes.
Board member comments, questions, announcements? Mr. Lott?
Sure. First of all, I want to thank Mrs. Kovitz for bringing the attention to the board of a deficiency we possibly had in the gifted program. And it was nice to watch, Mr. Schreier and the administrators kind of work together with her to come to a solution with it. And I was really happy to see that they were able to get that solved and do it pretty quickly. And there are processes and things they have to go through, and I appreciate that they took those steps and were able to make that happen. And yeah, probably not all I have.
I actually have a little bit to share today. Typically, this is a time that I like to highlight the different awesome things that are happening in Springboro, like our DC trip. I have a son that's on it right now, and it's neat to see the pictures coming back and, exciting memories that we're going to hold on to forever. But this is also a time that we can share our concerns, and that's what I'm going to be. That's what I feel like I need to do tonight. There are specifics that I'm willing to share in the future, but right now I'm going to share some non-specifics. I'm not going to get into names. I feel that we have some issues of some overall staff morale issues at some buildings that I feel like we need to figure out what the drivers are behind it. When I looked at the personnel tonight and I saw that we had 2 team leads resigning after 1 quarter at a building, that was a concern. Maybe it's just life situations, possibly, but that was a concern to me. Clearly, but off of my votes, you can see that I'm concerned with some financial decisions. I just really feel strongly we need to be looking at making sure that all of our financial decisions are being based around the goals in our district. And everything needs to be focused on kids and how it's benefiting our kids. As a board member, I feel a huge responsibility to our community to do what's best for kids, and that's what I'm always going to be committed to. And it's not always going to be easy, it's not always going to be comfortable, but that's what I'm committed to. I also have concerns that there's some leaders right now that aren't involving staff and colleagues in some decision making, and some decisions are being made in a fast manner that aren't being thoroughly thought through. An example that I'm going to pull out is something that was at first brought to us in executive session, which would normally not be brought out, but it was also brought to staff in one of the buildings. Therefore, it's become very public. And it's concerning as a parent, a board member, an educator, enough that I asked Mr. Schreier if I could look at the list of things that were given to us in executive session. Because I'm sitting back feeling very responsible, feeling like if we've got a big issue, we've got to make sure that we've got the right things in place to address that. So I appreciate he let me look at that list. I stayed in the office. I did what he asked. There were very few specifics shared with the staff, but there were issues of compliancy that were referred to. And I feel like it's our responsibility to make sure that we have very honest, transparent conversations among the administration, among our community, to make sure that we're doing what is best. And in the list of more than 60 items, I think that there's a fair number that appear to be more of a matter of preference, more of an issue of a difference of opinion with administration than a matter of compliancy. And what I felt like when I left the meeting was there was a lot of legal issues where it was a compliancy issue. And I really struggled internally what to do, because it is not the board's position to get involved operationally, and that's not what I want to do. However, I do want to bring a few things to our attention tonight, just because I, as a board member, am not a rubber stamper. I'm somebody that's going to get involved and make sure that we're doing what is best for kids. And there were some things that I just want to bring out, a handful of things that I saw that part of it is my background, and so it jumped out at me, that I just would like to have I'd like to have a chance to share this. There were some things in question as to whether an administrator's name was put on something without their permission. This is a form I've used many, many times in education. Prior written notice for special education. This is simply referring to who do you go to if you're looking for the special ed IDEA, what are your rights? It is not an administrator that is giving permission saying I'm signing off on something. It's just referring to the administrator saying that's the person you go to. So that it made it look like somebody is forging administrator's name. That's not what was happening. I've used this form numerous times. So that was not an accurate statement. There was questions in whether occupational therapy was given to every student. So I've been to many IEP meetings as an advocate in this district. And when you look at how, before I was on the board, when you look at how students are evaluated as an occupational therapist, in order to qualify for that, our district uses the Peabody. The Peabody, I looked it up online to see how extensive it is. This is how extensive it is. There's like 5 or 6 pages to it. And you have to be 1.5 standard deviation below in order to qualify. Now, if you're looking at students that might qualify for special ed, a lot of times there's going to be some fine and gross motor deficiencies that are also going to make sense because they qualify for special ed. So are there going to be a lot of kids that do qualify for OT at that level? For sure. But to insinuate that a full evaluation is not being done, the Peabody is a very, very thorough test. I've been in these meetings, and this is where I'm struggling, because when I see things and when there are statements being made that things were not done correctly, we're bringing on staff because we potentially have to redo all kinds of tests that are no longer valid because a certain
intervention specialist gave a test that was not qualified to do so, we're looking at financially money to the district. I looked at, okay, what do we use for cognitive assessment? It's the DAC. In the manual, it tells you who is qualified. I actually called the company because the words they use are early childhood specialist. We don't use that terminology in Ohio. So I said, in Ohio, it's an intervention specialist. They said if they have been trained in this, absolutely you're qualified. But yet we've been looking at possibly redoing a whole stack of assessments because they're not qualified. This is where I'm saying we need to pull the people in that were part of this whole assessment team to say, why did you do this? What was your thinking? Because I'm pulling this stuff that legally we're able to do. And I'm just not understanding where all of these concerns are, because when I left there, I felt like that's a huge compliancy issue if there's somebody that's not qualified. But when I look at, we give this test for the cognitive, and the company tells me an early intervention specialist is absolutely qualified, why would we be retesting students, taking them out of the classroom, pulling teachers out, I just don't understand that. A statement was made on we're over-diagnosing developmental delay. This is the Ohio Administrative Code. It explains that developmentally delayed students can be autism, cognitive disability, emotionally disturbed, specific learning disability. That's how you do it in preschool. So are there going to be a lot of students that are diagnosed as DD? Yes. And then once you have their academic background, then you give more specifics. This is the law. So there's going to be a lot of DD. It tells you, the law tells you that right now. So this is a huge concern to me, that it feels to me like a lot of the things that I was seeing, I mean, this is just some things of compliancy that I'm saying, this is the legal stuff, and I'm not seeing compliancy. It just felt like we're moving towards doing things that are the least for our kids rather than doing what is the best for our kids, doing the least legally possible, providing the least if we can possibly not give them this service. Let's do that. And, I just feel like, man, that's not who we are. We want to make sure that we are, if there's a student that qualifies, they go through these tests, let's give them that service. And, we had the conversation about the report card that to me, there's a lot around that I felt like when I looked at this list, it went back to the same thing. That did we pull in the team that was around that situation? Did we go to those people? Did we, are we doing what is truly kid-focused and doing what is best for the kids? It just, I don't know, there's just some things there that it's not feeling right to me. That I feel like we really need to step back and evaluate and get the right people that have been involved and get questions answered by some of those people that have been involved in the past. And if there's things that need to change, by all means, let's change it. But I feel like there's some things here that legally, I've got the law right here, and I just don't understand how there are so many things that were brought into question. So tonight, I'm just asking the administrators and my colleagues on the board to allow the following things to come to work session in November and December. And that would be an update on the team involvement on that list of 63 things, of actually going to people, whether it's team leads or whoever was involved in these different things, to say, help us understand, where are we coming from here? Some things might need to change, totally fine. But to go to those people and ask the questions to see if there might be some answers there. And then just to get an update on the Clear Creek report card as to where we're at with that. Looking at whether you go to people that were part of the parent team, the teacher team, whoever was part of that in the past, and marrying that with your concerns. I think that we could come up with address any concerns that you still might have with that.
I think bottom line is, I want the families in Springboro to know that we're not just looking at a list, but we're really researching things and we're working hard to resolve the different items that are listed and the concerns that are listed. Thank you.
My turn.
You or Jamie,
I'm good.
you snuck in.
So, since we're on this subject, so the 63 items, since you already put that out there, so those are items that were listed as concern in the building.
And some of them items
So-
of compliance.
So you're on record as saying, in your opinion, that there are no non-compliance issues?
No, I didn't say there's nothing. I
Well,
said,
pretty much that I heard, but you go ahead.
I said, the items that I listed here, I don't see compliance issues. So are there any of, I'm not going to get into any legal of all of those. I didn't list all 63
That's
things.
not appropriate. This is appropriate.
Well, actually, I didn't know what was appropriate and how to deal with this, so I called OSBA and I talked to their legal department and they said this did not qualify for executive session.
No, I'm not
So,
saying that. I'm just,
this-
you had this discussion with our superintendent and administrators.
Well, you know what? I have had some discussions with him.
No, I mean with all this
But
that you
just
just
a
laid out
second.
in front of us.
I have had some discussions, and it stayed right there, and there's been no, the actions have not been taken. So
And what
there's a
action-
big
what
enough
actions?
What
concern.
action was that you thought, here's, I just, because I don't want to spend, I'm not going to take up the board's time on this, but they've got people in the building that have over 50 years of experience in education, and just two people. I know that they have, and I stay out of it because, you know, my former wife was brought in to help. So I've kind of stayed out of it, but I do know that they reached out to the state for their help. They contacted other experts in this field.
They've reached out to the regional state support team.
If we've reached out to the Department of Education, the support team is here, yes. You talk about the internal people, our internal special education people who have worked with this building for years, have been a part of that plan, of those 63 items that you brought out tonight. And they sat with us and told us that team of people, including our curriculum people, all agreed that these things were happening and that whatever they said was a compliance issue was. And the state support team who works with the Ohio Department of Education, who are experts in special education, preschool, kindergarten, and first grade, have confirmed. And we have went to the teachers. We have went to the teachers involved and started working, instead of announcing to the entire group of teachers every single item and throwing a teacher or throwing somebody under a bus, we went to the individual issues and are working through them.
Okay, how does that explain that, what you had stated to us, that we would have to be retesting everybody because this person was not qualified, and yet this states that they are qualified?
I haven't seen that document, you haven't shared that one with me, Lisa, so I don't know.
But there's a
I would
variety.
take that and I would give it to our team of experts who know more about this than I do. I'm not. an
There's the
expert in this
law.
area.
I mean,
But for you, I would prefer for you to send me that link or give me that information. I could hand it to our building principal and our team of experts, including the people on this staff that have worked with that building, to say, okay, here's some more resources. I go back to Mrs. Kovitz and her information and giving us and going back and forth and being able to come to a solution because of information that we received and being able to work as a team. So the more information we have, I give to them, they look at it and say, hey, thank you, or no, that doesn't work in this instance. That's how we work through this.
see, and I didn't feel that it would be received like that, because after we left our report card meeting, I was simply asking for confirmation that we came to the same conclusion, and it took 4 emails and a text to get a confirmation that we agreed on something. And I have it right here. So I felt like the communication is not there. Therefore, these are big enough things that,
Communication is there, it's just that in with what you just said, it wasn't as timely. you would
4
like.
emails and a text simply saying, do we agree that this was the outcome of the meeting?
Well, it's still board member comments, so I'll just conclude by saying it's disappointing that, I was proud of last time we had a meeting because a community member brought a concern to the board, shared it with the administrator, and as Darren said, they collaborated, thought about it. That's a good point. I think we can relook at that. And so I thought it was a good day for academics. I think this position this athletic position is a win for athletics, and I know, and while I appreciate that academics is why we're all here, sports is an important part of this, the fabric and the culture and the pride of Springboro School. So that's equally important, and if the athletic director comes and says, we're woefully deficient in this area, I'd like some help in that, then I think we can help out. Teachers, I agree, everybody's, everybody could hopefully make more money and be reciprocated for the value they bring, but we got to start somewhere, and we're trying to do the best we can with what we have, and we do need money to hold on to bus drivers. It was mentioned 2 years ago how we were a training ground for bus drivers, and then they go to Centerville. As Mr. Pennell knows, teachers, we value our teachers. I can't say it any louder with 3 grandchildren and 2 children that went through this school system. But it's disappointing to hear in 3 separate occasions now, it's really a lot of negativity, and it's in a public forum because it's on TV, but I'm proud of Springboro Schools. Is it perfect? No, but we have a good system, we have good academics, we have good sporting events. Every time I get a chance to talk to a recent graduate of Springboro, I always ask them now, since I'm back on the board, to say, so how was your experience in Springboro? I have yet to meet a graduate here who's not said it was great. I don't, so, we have a lot of needs at once. We do need to pass a levy, and we will, administratively, we are lean. I sit on the career board. I sit with all these people from other districts, from Kings to Lebanon to Little Miami. They all have assistants to assistants. We have a treasurer. We don't even have an assistant treasurer. So we are lean. But we'll take advantage of that, and that's on purpose. But we need to get better at that too. We need to devote as much attention administratively for the benefit of these children as the students. It's just disappointing because when you have the forum you have, and you sit here and you say all these, expound all that, there's no opportunity for the other side to be heard, and there is another side to this. It will get fixed, we'll get better, and nobody's going to criticize anybody in the past. It's just stuff happens, and so it'll get fixed. But it's just disappointing to leave with the impression that, and especially there is a board member up here that did about children, and especially the 3 of you who currently have kids in this district. I know that's what all 3 of you feel it's like. So, but Dave and I have grandchildren, so we feel the same way, just in a different way. So we're going to always do what's best for kids. But some of this stuff is not about kids. It's I don't know what it is, but just need to, we need to let the professionals do what they do best. And we as board members need to know where our position is.
And I agree, and in talking with OSBA about this, with the specific concerns, they stated you need to talk with.
You will never find an OSBA member, person up there that will say that they would encourage a board member to go public before it was thoroughly vetted with the administrators. None. I venture to say, this is my second stint on the board. I serve on a lot of other boards. Never have I experienced this.
Okay,
Never.
I did.
All right, let's,
But it's
we're
all-
doing this individually.
So,
Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. You guys can help me out here. I got a bunch of things now to say or comment on. $20,000 for Jen Runchie. Okay. How many days is she going to be working for that 20,000 extra? 260. How many do the teachers work? Okay, I'm an ex-teacher, okay, but I understand that when you work more time, you get paid more, okay? How many athletes do we have?
It's around 60%.
60%, okay? That's a lot, okay? 60%.
You were about 1,800 in grade 7 as well.
That came from our athletic director. Talked about putting her on an administrative situation. Todd came to us last spring, did the same thing with some people. And they got raises, if I remember correctly. And this is so nitpicky, it just frustrates me. The Clear Creek situation, since it's been brought up, it's a special ed situation to us an extent, correct? We know that the people who are in charge of special ed were told to stay out of that building, correct?
That's what they said.
That's what they said. They were told not to go into that building. Last year. Same boat as Charles. We need to let the people that we have hired run the schools. And we, as board members, hire, fire, and set policy. That's it. I've talked to many people in the community, okay? Not within the schools during time, but outside. It's been staff, it's been community members. Mr. Schreier is very visible. He communicates well, is what they say. Our administrators are excited to have him as our superintendent. Personally been told that. I'm done.
So,
We have no other comments at this time, executive session to present.
To consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation of a public employee or official, matters that require to be kept confidential by federal law or regulations or state statutes. I have a motion to move into executive session.
so moved.
Second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Stuckey,
Yes.
Monk,
Yes.
Bass,
Yes.
Swanton,
Yes.